Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Shudder. For those of you not familiar with this channel, once a week I go searching through the popular streaming platforms and come up with 10 horror movies to recommend to you guys. This week, I went searching through Shudder and came up with 10 horror movies that I think you will enjoy. And with that, let's get to the list!
Vengeance is upon us.
So Headhunters is a medieval creature feature fantasy type of horror movie. But everything about this movie feels unique. Everything from the way that it's shot to the way you slowly see the plot being revealed. So it's about a medieval warrior's gruesome collection of severed heads. And his collection is only missing one, the most coveted of all, the head of the monster that killed his daughter. It stars Christopher Reich, who is really the only person on screen for pretty much the entire movie, and he doesn't have much dialogue. He really conveys all his emotions and thoughts and everything through just a lot of real simple actions. But for such a simple movie, I was never bored, not even once. This movie kept me interested and captivated the entire time. What really shines in this movie is the set designs and the props, because there's not a lot of effects, and like I said, there's very little acting going on. So it's really those things that keep you interested, but they do a great job. It just looks great for such a small movie. I really enjoy this movie, and if you've never seen it, I definitely think you should check it out.
They take a part of me with them.
Fingers is weird, bizarre, but in a fun way. It's a dark, uncomfortable horror comedy. So it's about an office manager who starts to confront her fears about other people's body imperfections when one of her team comes in missing a pinky.
Walter's missing a pinky.
Don't worry about my hand, please.
And it's done in the strangest way because he just acts like nothing's wrong. He doesn't even have it bandaged up, just a pinky missing. And he's like, what? I don't have an issue here. It's so gross and bizarre from the very beginning with lots of bloody body horror. It has so many layers to its insanity, and it slowly keeps unraveling to its strange core. So a big warning, this is not gonna be for everyone. I found myself laughing out loud to some of the most twisted stuff. It has this quirky, humorous way about it, and you just can't help yourself but have fun with it. Michael St. Michaels is great in this movie, and so is Jeremy Gardner. The two of them are really my favorite part of the movie. Just their interactions, the dialogue between the two of them is hilarious. I found myself absolutely loving this weird little movie, and if you're not easily offended, I definitely recommend giving this a go.
What do you want?
Vengeance.
The Call is an eerie yet emotional movie that is very underrated and really deserves more attention. This movie's about an old woman played by Lynn Shay who is believed to be a witch, and this group of friends literally drive her insane to the point where she finally kills herself.
Move your arm!
Going somewhere?
Oh, I'm sorry, old hag.
You are lucky my husband is not here. He would shoot you. Now get out!
So after her death, her husband, played by Tobin Bell, contacts these friends and makes them an offer. Says, I'll give you a bunch of money, but you have to call this phone that's been placed in her coffin after she died. And to their horror, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And I'll leave it at that. It's so awesome to have these two horror legends in a movie together, and they both do a fantastic job, as well as the young cast around them. It has lots of creepy scenes, as well as spooky paranormal moments. There's also plenty of jumps and frights as well, but there's much more to it than that. This movie also just has a really interesting little story. This is an entertaining little movie that nobody talks about, and I think you should definitely check it out. So Slapface is a slow burn with a foreboding, dark, almost depressing feel to it. There's a strong feeling of dread the entire time. So this movie's about a boy named Lucas, whose mother has recently died. He lives in a rundown house with his older brother. So in order to deal with this pain, he's kind of a loner and he hangs out in the woods. And his only friends are these girls who really just bully him. And him and his brother don't have a very great relationship either because they're just dealing with this trauma.
You ready? This is gonna hurt.
But after a strange encounter in the woods with this inhuman monster, Lucas starts to really withdraw even more so. And ultimately he grows to have this bond with this creature. And after that, the movie just really gets bizarre. Michael C. Manning gives an emotional, really powerful performance in this. It's so believable yet uncomfortable to watch him on the screen. But this entire movie is uncomfortable. And I gotta warn you, there's definitely some trigger moments to this movie as well. There's cruelty and abuse that can be hard to watch. But this is just a much deeper, more powerful movie than I ever expected. And wow, what a powerful ending this movie has. Definitely hang around and read the text that comes up on the screen at the end because it really makes it all just come into focus. This is a really well done movie that I highly recommend.
Cha-ching.
Tales from the Crypt presents Bordello of Blood.
So Tales from the Crypt Bordello of Blood is a continuation from the 1990 series Tales from the Crypt. So a woman played by Erica Elenick hires a private investigator to find her brother who's gone missing. So the private investigator that she hires is played by comedian Dennis Miller.
I'm here for the Cunningham wake.
I'm afraid the wake is closed tonight.
If I don't grieve right now, maybe even grieve 2 or 3 times, I'm gonna go out of my mind, okay?
And in his investigation, he discovers this bordello that's ran by the evil vampire Lilith. So he teams up with a reverend to take on the vampires. There's lots of nudity, lots of gore, and I think it's a campy good time that you should definitely check out.
And ladies, if you think Demon Night is too gross and yucky, whoa! Thank you.
So Tales from the Crypt Demon Night is such a blast to the past. It came out in the mid-90s and I remember going with my friends to see it in theaters. And it's just such a good time. It's about an ex-soldier played by William Sadler who is running from these demons. And he takes refuge in this old church that's now turned into a hotel of sorts. And the main demon after him is played by Billy Zane, who is just so much fun in this movie. But there's just a whole cast of characters who all have to team up. There's just so much gory, good fun in this movie. It's gooey, slimy, demonic, glow-in-the-dark green blood. This movie is just an absolute blast.
Come on out, everybody. It's time to play.
And between the two, I think this is definitely a much better film than Bordello of Blood. Bordello of Blood is fun, but it really just feels like another episode of Tales from the Crypt, whereas this feels like a movie. Yes, it has that same campy goofiness to it, but there's more than that. It feels like it has better practical effects, better acting, just an all-around more entertaining, enjoyable movie. It's just silly fun to turn your brain off to. I definitely recommend it. So Valentine is the first part of my double feature weekend. It's a really great early 2000s teen slasher. The basic premise is about these 5 women who are being stalked by an unknown killer. So during their preparations for Valentine's Day, people start dying and they realize that it's someone from their past that has a grudge against them, but you don't know who.
He attacked me at a dance in junior high and he got sent to reform school because of it.
10 years is a long time. This could be anyone.
This has a real whodunit vibe to it that is a lot of fun. It has a great cast of young hotties from the early 2000s that add a really fun energy to this movie. It's definitely not a perfect movie. It has loads of early 2000s cheese to it, but I think it has a great high energy, entertaining vibe to it. It's well shot, directed, so I think it's a lot of fun and one that I recommend.
You gotta come on.
This is my post. I can't just split. Cherry Falls.
Don't you want your first time to be something beautiful, something romantic?
So Cherry Falls is the second part of my double feature weekend. And like Valentine, it's an early 2000s teen slasher. This one's a little darker and less glamorous though. It's about a small town sheriff played by Michael Biehn who discovers that there's a serial killer in his little sleepy town. And the killer seems to only be targeting male and female teen virgins.
Who is it? Is your mom home? No? She didn't tell you I was coming by.
4 teenagers have been killed. The 5th viciously attacked. All victims appear to be virgins.
And as you can guess, the deaths start to cause a panic between all the teens in the town. The sheriff also has a young teen daughter played by Brittany Murphy, who is another potential victim. It really becomes a cat and mouse game with lots of twists and turns. This is just really well made with a really great young cast. But in a lot of ways, this is a better movie than a lot of those early 2000s teen slashers. This movie just has a really fun vibe to it, and it's really surprising how little I hear anyone talk about this. I think it's a really entertaining hidden gem that you should definitely check out.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
So The Beach House is a creepy, uncomfortable movie. For a lot of the movie, it just has this overwhelming awkwardness. It just feels strangely uncomfortable. It's about a couple who have been on hard times. They're really struggling in their relationship. So they decide to go to his father's beach house to kind of get away. And shortly after they arrive, this older couple shows up. And so there's this weird awkwardness between the two couples as they sort out what to do. And as this awkwardness between these couples goes on, the movie starts to slowly shift into becoming something totally different.
Have you seen this out here before? It's in the trees.
It's all over. Something in the air.
And eventually it takes a dramatic turn and becomes just a real struggle for survival. And in the final act of this movie, it completely goes off the deep end and becomes a real horror sci-fi movie. I really enjoyed the strange directions that this movie goes in, but you do have to be a little patient because it takes a while to get there. So if you're a fan of weird indie horror movies, I think this is one you should definitely check out.
You'll never get rid of me, Toddy.
I think there's an enigma. There's a real mystery at the heart of Boris Karloff, and no one's quite cracked it yet.
Certain actors bring the camera to them, and Karloff had that power.
So The Man Behind the Monster is the last one on this list, and it's a documentary that does a deep dive into horror legend Boris Karloff. It really goes deep into his story and the movies that he created, as well as just the people that surrounded him. The entire classic horror lineup, all the Universal classics, all the different great horror legends. There's some really great behind the scenes imagery and pictures, just so much here.
He kind of backs into the scene and turns around slowly in the lights, and there's that face. You can't imagine a better entrance.
If you're a fan of the classic horror movies like I am, this is a definite can't miss. And I personally think that if you're a fan of horror, you need to know about the classics because that's where it all began. And something like this really helps kind of introduce you to a lot of the stuff you may not know. Either way, if you're a fan of documentaries and horror movies, this is a brilliant one and one that I think you will definitely have a good time with. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know if there's any movies on Shudder I missed because I always love recommendations from you guys. And if you could also do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to my patrons because you guys, yeah, you Your support seriously means so much to me. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.